That's it from Baha Mar. Purdue are your 2025 champions with a 30-point domination over Texas Tech. The live post-game show starts right now.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into a post-game episode of Locked On Boilermakers after Purdue just pulled off a really big victory over Texas Tech. 30 points. It was a dominating victory. 86-56 is your final score tonight. It's a late one. It was a late start, but we're here. We're live on Locked On Boilermakers, and like I said, that was about as impressive of a victory as you could have possibly hoped for going into this game, and it was really a great rebound from what we saw yesterday against Memphis. Going into this game, I kind of had the expectation that, maybe Purdue, they're going to start out hot today after what happened against Memphis yesterday. That was certainly the case. As Purdue, they started out hot. Texas Tech, they were able to make some threes to start out this game, but ultimately, they just died out. They couldn't make the ball to save their lives to end the first half. Purdue went on like a 20-0 run. Really just a very complete game all around for the Boilermakers in this one. They win by 30 in this game. We're going to get to everything here on this live post-game show. As you guys are getting in here, following the game, leave your thoughts, comments down below what you thought about this dominating game against Texas Tech. We'll talk about all of it here today. But the thing that sticks out to me, yes, you beat Texas Tech. Yes, you beat Texas Tech by 30, and that's going to be one of the biggest wins you have all season. What stuck out to me is that there was really no player on Purdue that had a bad game. If you look at the scores, I think everyone in the starting lineup did have double figures at the conclusion. TKR had 12. Oscar Clough had 15. CJ had 10. Braden had 10. Fletcher had 10. So all of those guys ultimately really did play good basketball tonight, and that's why Purdue comes away with the victory. It was a complete game. JT Toppin, he had some points in the second half, but they really didn't mean anything. I thought that Jacobson really stepped up at points tonight where there have been some questions on whether he can guard a guy as talented as JT Toppin down low. And I think he did a pretty dang good job alongside Oscar Clough, who had like 15 rebounds in this game. TK was also hitting the glass. Honestly, it was just domination. It really just was domination. Texas Tech didn't have a chance in this game after like the first 5 minutes. Purdue, they just kind of ran them out of the building. They had their foot on the pedal and didn't let up the whole way. Really big win for Purdue. This is going to be a game that you look back in March. Yes, Purdue, they win their 5th straight Feast Week championship. So that's going to be fun. And the title, that's fun. But ultimately what this gives you is another quad win to hold going into March that you can put on your resume and say, hey, we deserve to be the number 1 seed. And there's a lot of talk right now about Arizona, who beats a good team and maybe they're number 1. I think that goes away. I don't think there should be any conversation about any team in the nation being number 1 than Purdue right now, because they really did show tonight that they are the number 1 team in the nation. They showed, and that depth showed tonight in terms of all those guys being in double figures. I think 7 guys were in double figures for Purdue. That's correct. Jacobson had 11, Meyer had 11, then all the starters were in double figures as well. Crazy night for Purdue. I think this is about as good of a outcome as you could have possibly hoped for going into this game. I don't think that we've seen a win like this in quite a while. And I don't know how Purdue's going to be able to match this, because taking on a top 15 opponent, an opponent where they have Christian Anderson, they have JT Toppin. This isn't a Texas Tech team that was ranked 15. It didn't deserve to be ranked 15. This Texas Tech team is normally really, really good. Just tonight, Purdue is so much better, and they really killed Texas Tech's momentum all the way through. But I think this, and somewhat so against Alabama, but specifically tonight, I feel like this was really the first time this season where we can see what Purdue has the opportunity to be going into March, going in through the rest of the year. It was a really fun game. As y'all are still continuing to get in here, leave your takeaways, your thoughts, what you thought about Purdue's huge 30-point victory over Texas Tech tonight. Something I wanted to talk about was on the broadcast, they brought up that Texas Tech may not be playing as good as Purdue was because they had a later start against Wake Forest last night, whereas Purdue played in the early game against Memphis. And I thought that was just a bizarre take. Honestly, I didn't really understand that in terms of, I mean, yes, they play a little bit later, but this game started tonight at 9:30 Eastern. I don't think Texas Tech playing late last night had any effect in their ability to come in and ultimately coming in flat tonight. I just don't think that they played good basketball. I don't think that they were successful, and it was because Purdue did so many things well. If we look at the team stats, take a look at the margins. It's going to give us a good read of kind of where things went wrong for Texas Tech, where things went right for Purdue. The number that sticks out is 8 for 34 for Texas Tech from three. And I think most of those three-point shots, it felt like all 8 of those came in the first couple minutes of that game. After that, Texas Tech, they went cold for three. 8 for 34. That doesn't win you any games. 24% from three. And honestly, you don't even have to shoot the best efficiency as long as you don't shoot at a crazy volume. But when you're shooting at 34 shots from three a game and you're only making 8 of those, that sets you up in a position where you're just not going to win games. It was honestly kind of uncharacteristic from Texas Tech, but credit to Purdue. They forced those opportunities. They forced Texas Tech to take threes. They forced Texas Tech to turn the ball over. All the credit to Purdue in this one, genuinely. Texas Tech, they looked like not Texas Tech. They looked really bad. But I don't think it has to be credited to them playing late last night or to them not being on their A game. I just think that Purdue went flat out into this game. They realized that they didn't play the way that they should have last night against Memphis. And they said, hey, we're going to make up for it tonight. We're going to put the belt on Texas Tech. And they certainly did that. I still think that Texas Tech is going to be a good team. And I'm not trying to get too on to Texas Tech because I honestly thought that Texas Tech would be Purdue's toughest non-conference matchup in all of the slate because that is a tough game on paper. I think that Texas Tech will bounce back. I think that they'll have the opportunity to kind of use tonight. The broadcast said it, but kind of see this is the standard. Purdue is the standard, and we want to play up to that. Whether Texas Tech is able to do that or not, that's kind of up to those guys in the locker room. And tonight, they didn't show up. The turnover margins was somewhere else where Purdue actually turned the ball over more times than Texas Tech, 11-9. Texas Tech had 8 points. Purdue had 7, but you wouldn't be able to tell. The fast break wasn't really too big of a factor in this one. Texas Tech, normally a solid fast break team, but Purdue, they were just making so many shots where Texas Tech never had the opportunity to run, and that really cut off their momentum. That stopped them from playing the way that they want to play. No one on Texas Tech was all that efficient. Tonight, Christian Anderson, he was okay, 5 for 15. He had 13 points, but only 1 assist. This is a guy that averages 9 assists on the season, and that's where Texas Tech usually beats you, is when Anderson's getting down low, passing it to JT Toppin. He wasn't able to do that tonight because guys weren't making their shots. Purdue, they were able to get hands in transition. Pretty much everything that could have gone wrong for Texas Tech did go wrong in this game. We talked in the pregame show about how if you're able to limit JT Toppin is a guy that he's on All-American watch. He was an All-American last year, and he's averaging like 24 points, 12 rebounds on the year. You don't need to force JT Toppin to 6 points, but if you're able to hold him to 16, that's going to be a formula where you're going to be able to beat Texas Tech because he's so much of their offense where if you can just limit him to a mediocre game, normally you're going to be able to find success. And JT Toppin only had 15 points tonight, 8 rebounds, 6 or 13. And like I said, a lot of those kind of came late in the game where they really didn't matter. Purdue already kind of had that game locked up. Really, they had it locked up halfway through the second half when they went on a 20-0 run. That was about it for Texas Tech in this game. It was too much for them, really. Purdue went into halftime. They were up big. They were up 49-26 at halftime. So a 23-point halftime lead. That wasn't able to be came back from for Texas Tech. Texas Tech only had 30 points in the second half. Purdue, they put up 37. They couldn't do anything. They really couldn't do anything in the second half. And it's a credit to what Purdue is. It's a credit to where they are right now. I thought that Omer Meyer was really good. I thought that he was able to step in. You really didn't need a whole lot of Braden Smith tonight. I think Braden played 28 minutes. He was fairly efficient, made a couple really big threes in this game when you needed him to. He had 10 points, 7 assists. Braden Smith had a fine game, but you really don't need him to produce against a team in Texas Tech when you're up as much as you were. But I thought that Meyer stepped in, and Omer, he's been a guy that the past couple games, let's say past 3 games, even going back to Alabama, he struggled his first 2 games kind of getting used to college basketball, getting used to the flow. But I think that he has really stepped up, and he's kind of proven that he deserves to be that backup point guard. He deserves to run this offense, and he deserves to be the point guard of the future for this team. He made some really good shots tonight. He was really getting it done. Offensively, had 11 points, 5 for 8. He did make a 3, had an assist, a couple turnovers. Overall, I think that Purdue did a solid job. Texas Tech is a team that forces a bunch of steals. They're averaging like 8 steals a game this season. Purdue, they turned the ball over a little bit more than you would like. They turned it over more than Texas Tech, but it wasn't enough for Texas Tech to really do anything with it. You have enough turnovers where, yes, they beat you in that number, but they only beat you by 1 point off those turnovers. So Purdue did a good job of limiting the damage that came off those turnovers. And the momentum was a big thing. That's something I want to hit on. Last night against Memphis, it felt like Purdue, they were unable to get any momentum. And that some of that goes back to the fouls, Purdue just really being in foul trouble. And a great margin of that game that kind of hurt Purdue's momentum. You can look at some of the bad shooting efficiently. You weren't shooting efficiently against Memphis. That hurt Purdue's momentum. You do the complete opposite tonight. And I just think that speaks to Matt Painter, his ability to motivate this team. And I'm sure that was part of the conversation last night. I'm sure like he had to have been in their ears because he talked last night in the post-game show about being emotional, how even if things aren't going your way, even if the Revs are kind of determining the game at time, the ability to kind of stay in, not get too emotional, it's going to be important for Purdue. I didn't think that they were emotional at all tonight, and they didn't give the Revs any opportunity for them to really determine much of anything because they were just making so many shots. And when Purdue shoots the ball at the level that they did tonight, they're not going to get beat. I mean, they shot the ball at a level where it was just unreal efficiency. 57% from 3, 8 for 14. You look at that number, 8 for 14. I can't help but say, yes, Purdue, they got it done, and they got it done in a good way. But I may even want to see some more threes when you're shooting the ball as efficient as Purdue is. And that's kind of going to be the story of this Purdue team, is that offensive efficiency, the ability to dictate that pace with the efficiency. It's going to get you some wins this year, and it got Purdue the win tonight. It got Purdue the win against Alabama, and even in games against Memphis, like these tight games where you don't want them to be as close as they are. That efficiency, that pace, it comes up big in late moments, even when things don't go your way through 35 minutes of the game. That pace, that efficiency, that gets you the win. And that's going to be huge for Purdue this year. Even though I hated what happened last night against Memphis, how Purdue played in that one, I think it's going to be beneficial. It was beneficial tonight. In these close games, those are going to be beneficial going into the end of the season, learning how to win in those tight games. And I don't think that Purdue has any issue with that. And now we have a bit of a break. Eastern Illinois will be following Thanksgiving. So we got Thanksgiving break coming for the boys. A lot of time to think about what happened tonight. A lot of time to just kind of ride that momentum going into the rest of non-conference play. And before we get out of here tonight, I do want to take a look at the rest of this non-conference schedule, because with the win over Texas Tech tonight, what was kind of speculated going into this season, a lot of Purdue fans said, hey, undefeated non-conference. It's possible, maybe unlikely, because you just play so many good teams. Tonight, I don't think that's unlikely. Honestly, I think it's likely that Purdue goes undefeated in non-conference play, because going into this game, certainly it didn't seem like it because Texas Tech didn't play the way they normally do, but it felt like Texas Tech and Baha Mar would probably be Purdue's toughest non-conference game. Now, I don't know, probably Iowa State at home, but Marquette at home the following week. That doesn't really feel like a marquee matchup anymore, because Marquette not playing good basketball at all. You've got Auburn and Indianapolis. Auburn has a lot of questions surrounding that team. Indianapolis is practically going to be a home game. there are still a couple tough teams that Purdue has to play, but the outlook for potentially pulling off an undefeated non-conference, it definitely looks possible, if not probable, after tonight. I don't want to put those expectations on Purdue because I've never really been a guy that puts a whole lot to going undefeated. It's about winning when it matters in March, right? Going undefeated, it only means so much, and only so many teams have done that. I think it's an unrealistic standard to put on a team, but right now, in terms of non-conference play, I don't think it's unrealistic at all. I think that this Purdue team truly will run the table for quite a while until we at least get into conference play. I don't think there are going to be many conference losses for Purdue, but I do think that they'll lose one or two. But the ability to be number one in the nation, rolling all the way in to 2026, that's what this win tonight against Texas Tech gives you. It gives you the benefit of the doubt that you can continue to beat these tough teams, that you can continue to beat these top 15 teams. They did it tonight against Texas Tech. They're going to continue to do it again throughout the course of this season. Thank you guys for joining me tonight on this Locked On Boilermakers live show. I know it's kind of late, but it was a fun one. Purdue pulls out a 30-point victory to win the Baha Mar title. We'll be back next week talking everything, previewing Purdue versus Indiana football and Purdue versus Eastern Illinois. That one's going to be a double on Black Friday, and it's going to be fun. Thank you guys once again. And as always, boiler up, hammer down.